What if you closed your eyes tonight and found yourself wandering back through time? Back to an age when the night was darker, quieter, deeper than the one we know. When stars burned brightly above fields and forests, and the sound of hooves echoing in the distance might mean safety or danger. What if, in that darkness, men in armor rose, and with them, a whole new order of power, a pattern of loyalty, courage, faith, and fear that would shape the Middle Ages? What if, tonight, we drift gently into their world? Welcome, dear dreamer. Welcome to this calm journey, this gentle unfolding of history, here in the Sleepless series. Before we begin, let me invite you to pause, to breathe softly, to let go of the weight of your day. If you find comfort in these stories, if they help you drift into rest, you might gently like this video. Perhaps subscribe if you wish to return again. And if your heart feels open, leave a quiet comment below. Tell me, softly, where are you listening from tonight? Across what distance do our voices meet? Now, let us prepare the body and the mind for rest. Find the place where you are lying. Feel the fabric beneath your skin. Notice the weight of the blanket, the way it rests upon your chest, your shoulders. Feel the breath moving slowly, in and out, a rhythm as ancient as time itself, a rhythm that knights once knew as they rested in their halls, armor set aside, listening to the wind around the stone walls of their keeps. Let the jaw soften. Let the brow grow smooth. Let the fingers uncurl. Each muscle loosens, as though falling into the gentle embrace of night. Imagine now that around you, the world is dimming. The lamps are fading. A hush is settling across the village. In the distance, a bell tolls, slowly, calling the hour of night. And with each sound, we drift deeper into history, deeper into calm. Tonight, we journey through the long unfolding of the Middle Ages, to see how the knight, that armored figure so often wrapped in myth and legend, became a true force of power, not in fairy tales alone, but in the living, breathing fabric of history. The story will come slowly, like the rising mist from a river at dawn. We will move step by step, softly and without hurry, from the fading of Rome, to the rise of castles, to the glittering tournaments, and the solemn vows of loyalty. But here, in this first moment together, there is no need to race ahead. We are not in the company of hurried chronicles. We are in the rhythm of sleep. And stories are best told slowly, like a lullaby of memory. So breathe. Listen. Imagine. Picture a wide plain under moonlight. Grass waving gently in the cool air. In the distance, the faint silhouette of a horse and rider. The clink of chainmail carries on the wind. The medieval night is deep, filled with silence. Yet never empty. For in those dark centuries, knights began to rise. We will learn together how they gained their place of honor, how they shaped kingdoms, how they carried both sword and cross, how their image endures, even now. But for this moment, all you need is to rest, and to let the story carry you. The path begins here, on the threshold of time. Close your eyes, if they are not already closed. Feel the warmth of the present, while drifting slowly into the past. The story of the knights awaits us. And tonight, it is yours. Imagine, for a moment, the great Roman world. Vast roads stretching across continents. Stone cities shining with marble. Aqueducts carrying water like rivers in the sky. It was a world of order, of law, of soldiers marching in perfect lines. But slowly, quietly, almost imperceptibly at first, that order began to fade. By the 4th and 5th centuries, the empire that had ruled the Mediterranean for centuries was growing fragile. Cracks appeared in its walls. Rebellions stirred in its provinces. And the long arm of Rome no longer reached as strongly into the far corners of Europe. Close your eyes and picture it. A Roman villa once filled with light. Shutters drawn against the cold. Mosaic floors wearing thin. Soldiers no longer stationed nearby. Merchants fearful of the open road. The Pax Romana, the peace of Rome, was dissolving. And with it, the old ways of safety and structure. Villages began to feel the absence. The wide, secure highways became dangerous. Where once travelers carried wine, grain, and silk, now bands of raiders might lurk. Families drew closer to their land. People lived more locally. And the idea of protection became more precious than ever. Breathe slowly, and let this vision settle. A world slipping from the embrace of empire into the arms of uncertainty. Barbarian tribes moved across borders. Goths, Vandals, Franks, Saxons. The names whispered in fear in Roman halls. They did not see themselves as destroyers, but as seekers of land, of safety, of opportunity. Yet to the people within Rome's shrinking shadow, they felt like waves of chaos breaking upon the shore. Imagine the sound, not of disciplined legions, but of rougher bands of warriors. Swords raised, shields battered. Horses galloping across meadows once guarded by Roman forts. The empire was receding, and something new was coming. In the absence of centralized power, people turned inward. They looked to local leaders, men who could promise them safety, men who could defend their land, their grain, their families. It was in this soil of uncertainty that the first seeds of knighthood would one day grow. But not yet. For now, the land was scattered, fragmented. Like broken pottery, pieces of Rome lay across the continent. In Italy, fragments of grandeur still lingered. In Gaul, new kingdoms were forming. In Britain, Roman legions had departed, leaving towns to fend for themselves. Listen to the silence between words. That silence was familiar to the people of the early Middle Ages. A silence filled not with peace, but with watchfulness. The kind of quiet that comes when one listens for danger in the night. And yet, within that quiet, life went on. Fields were plowed. Wheat grew golden in the sun. Children laughed by rivers. Bells tolled in small churches built of stone and timber. For the Christian faith, though once persecuted, was now rising as a steady flame in the dark, guiding people with hope, even as political order collapsed. The bishops and priests became voices of continuity. They offered stability where soldiers could not. And gradually, they too would bless the warriors who rose in their midst. For protection and faith were becoming intertwined. Drift a little deeper. Imagine now a family in a small wooden hall. Fire crackling at the hearth. Outside, the night is cold. The father keeps watch at the door. For in the forest beyond, raiders might come. The children curl beneath blankets of wool, listening, half dreaming, half afraid. It was in such nights that the need for defenders grew. Men on horseback, men who could ride swiftly to shield the vulnerable, men who could wield sword and shield with skill. The empire was gone, but the need for guardians remained. From this fading world, a new order would rise. Feudalism, the web of loyalty and protection. And at its heart, the night. But before we arrive there, linger here a little longer. In the hush of the post-Roman night, the roads are broken, the villas abandoned, the forums silent. Grass grows between the stones of once great cities, and the stars look down, unchanged, eternal. The people of these centuries did not know they were living in what we call the Dark Ages. To them, it was simply life. Fields to till, prayers to whisper, dangers to endure. But historians would later look back and see a world dimmed from the brilliance of Rome, waiting for new lights to rise. And among those new lights would be the figure of the knight, not yet adorned in shining armor, not yet cloaked in chivalry, but already stirring in the soil of history. The warrior, the protector, the one who would one day kneel before a lord and rise, armored, into legend. So breathe again. Slowly. Let the fading world of Rome slip like sand through your fingers. The empire dissolves into mist. And from that mist, new shapes appear. Castles will rise. Vows will be spoken. Swords will be lifted. But tonight, we are still on the edge of that transformation. The old world falls, and the new world waits. Sleep if you wish, or listen on, for the story has only just begun. Imagine a wide landscape, fields stretching outward beneath a pale sky, forests dark at the edges, rivers winding slowly like silver threads. In this landscape, small villages cling to life. Thatched roofs, smoke curling gently upward, animals gathered close for warmth. The empire has faded, but people remain. And people always need safety, always need food, water, shelter. Without Rome, there are no distant legions to guard them, no central hand to keep the peace. The wide roads are broken, and so life folds inward, smaller, tighter, more fragile. And here, in this fragility, new patterns begin to form. Picture a farmer at work in the field. Hands rough from labor, eyes always glancing to the tree line. For danger may come suddenly. Raiders, bandits, or rival clans. In such a world, protection becomes more valuable than gold. And so, families turn to the strongest among them. The ones who can fight. The ones who can ride. The ones who can build wooden palisades around a hilltop and call it a hall. This is where feudalism is born. Not as an abstract system of law, but as a web of human needs. A promise of safety in exchange for loyalty. Labor given for protection received. Close your eyes and picture the ritual. A villager bends the knee before a local lord, placing his hands within the larger hands of the master. He swears faithfulness. The lord, in turn, swears protection. And from this bond, life gains a fragile shape. It is not yet the shining age of chivalry, but it is the soil from which it will grow. Feudalism was, at its heart, a patchwork of promises, woven together across Europe. Not all alike, not all strong, yet binding people in webs of trust and power. The lords built wooden halls, ringed them with ditches, then wooden palisades. These early fortresses offered refuge when trouble came. Families would rush inside with their animals, while the men-at-arms stood ready with spears. And among these men at arms, a few stood out. Skilled riders, trained fighters. These were not yet called knights, but they were becoming something close. The horse was the difference. A man on horseback could cover ground quickly. He could defend, he could chase, he could strike and retreat. His presence turned the tide in small battles. Villagers knew that when a rider approached, he carried power greater than a dozen men on foot. And so, the warrior on horseback became a symbol, not just of strength, but of protection. Breathe deeply now, and let yourself imagine one of these early halls. The night is cool. Torches burn at the gate. Villagers are gathered within, frightened by rumors of raiders nearby. In the hall, a lord speaks to his men, promising defense, swearing to keep the people safe in return for their labor and loyalty. At the edge of the firelight, a young warrior tends to his horse, sharpening a sword by the glow of flame. He is not called a knight yet, but he carries within him the seeds of that role. The defender bound to his lord. It was in these centuries, from the 7th to the 9th, that the patterns of feudalism spread across Europe. In Francia, the kingdom of the Franks grew strong. Charlemagne rose, uniting wide lands under his crown. And with him came mounted warriors sworn to serve. In England, after Rome's legions left, local chieftains ruled, their men riding across hills and valleys, each promising protection to the farmers below. In Spain, in Italy, in Germany, the same need, the same web of oaths. Feudalism was not a single invention, but a response, a slow-growing pattern, one that answered the question, how do we survive when the empire is gone? And so, across centuries, bonds of loyalty deepened. Lords promised to shield. Peasants worked the land. Warriors rode to guard them. Those warriors would become the knights, but not yet in their shining armor, not yet in their full glory. For now, they were still shadows in the torchlight, learning what it meant to serve. The seeds of feudalism were like seeds in the soil of spring, fragile at first, but destined to grow strong, destined to flower into castles, chivalry, and power. And as you breathe, as you drift deeper, let yourself see those seeds, sprouting slowly in the dark earth of the Middle Ages. A promise spoken, a hand clasped, a sword raised in defense. These were the beginnings, the quiet roots, of the knights who would rise. The world is quieter here, more local, more fragile. But already the echoes of the future can be heard. The clink of armor, the rhythm of hooves. So rest and listen, for the story continues, and with it, the nights draw nearer. What if you stood at the edge of a field in the early morning, mist rising from the grass, and from that haze emerged a rider, tall in the saddle, the breath of the horse steaming in the cool air? What if that rider carried more than strength, more than speed? What if he carried the future, the shape of power itself, the warrior on horseback? For in the centuries after Rome's fall, when fields were vulnerable and villages fragile, the man who rode a horse became something different, something greater. Close your eyes and imagine the difference. A man on foot moves slowly, bound to the earth, his stride limited, his reach short. But on a horse, he becomes swift as the wind. His sword carries further. His lance strikes with thunder. His presence looms larger. It was not simply strength. It was technology. The saddle, the stirrup, innovations that seem so small, but changed the course of history. The saddle steadied the rider, giving him balance as the horse surged beneath him. The stirrup anchored his feet, allowing him to brace, to strike without falling. And with these, the horse and rider became one. Not two separate bodies, but a single creature of flesh, iron, and motion. The warrior on horseback could crash into lines of infantry, scattering them like leaves before a storm. He could ride down raiders swiftly, protecting the fragile heart of the village. He could patrol wide lands, carrying the Lord's authority far beyond the hall. And so, the mounted warrior became the chosen arm of power. Breathe slowly and picture a battlefield. On one side, men with spears and shields, their feet planted, their hearts steady. On the horizon, a dust cloud rises. The earth begins to tremble. And then, the horsemen arrive. Armor glinting, lances lowered. The thunder of hooves crashes like waves. It was here, in such moments, that the truth was clear. The warrior on horseback held the future in his hands. Yet, this was not yet the full night. His armor was simpler. Chainmail if he could afford it, leather if not. His weapons varied. His loyalty uncertain. Some rode for kings, some for lords, some for plunder alone. But the idea was forming, that the rider was different, that he could demand more, claim more, that his service was precious, and his role essential. This difference gave birth to privilege, because training a horse, feeding it, equipping rider and steed with weapons and armor, required wealth. A poor farmer could not rise into this role easily. And so, the mounted warrior became linked to land, to status, to a higher class of men. And soon, that class began to see itself not only as warriors, but as something greater. Defenders of order, holders of power. Imagine the rhythm of training. A boy beginning as a page, tending horses, cleaning weapons, watching the older riders practice, learning the discipline of service. Then, as a squire, he learned to ride, to tilt with lance, to draw a sword, to guard his lord in battle. And finally, one day, perhaps, he would kneel before his master and rise a knight. But in these earlier centuries, before the word knight carried its full weight, the rider was already forming the heart of that tradition. Villagers looked to the horizon and felt relief. If riders of their lord approached, and terror, if riders unknown came galloping in. The horse itself became a symbol, a destrier, powerful and trained, was more than an animal. It was wealth, it was war, it was prestige. Breathe again. Slowly. Imagine standing in a stable. The smell of hay and leather. The sound of hooves shifting in straw. A young warrior brushes his horse, speaking softly to it. For he knows this creature is his partner, his ally, his life. The bond between horse and rider was sacred. And from that bond rose the image of the knight. But for now, we linger here, in the age of the early mounted warrior, not yet bound by chivalry, not yet clothed in shining plate, but already the shape of the future is clear. The warrior on horseback holds the power, and soon, castles will rise to house them. Stone walls will echo with their presence, and oaths will bind them ever tighter to their lords. The night is coming. But for tonight, in this part of our dream, we rest in the moment when horse and rider became one. When the stirrup changed the course of battle, and the world tilted toward the age of knights. So drift a little deeper, and listen on, for the story continues. What if you walked across a meadow at dusk, the air cooling, the last birds calling, and before you, on a hill, a shape rose against the fading sky. Tall walls, towers, battlements. A castle, standing firm against the gathering night. What if such castles were not merely stone and mortar, but living hearts of power, the beating centers of medieval life? In the early centuries, these strongholds were simpler. Wooden halls upon hills, ringed by palisades and ditches. Yet even then, they drew the people inward, offering a promise: within these walls, you may be safe. Close your eyes. and picture the sound of wooden gates closing, the heavy thud of timbers locking into place, families hurrying within with animals and grain, torches flaring along the walls. Beyond the palisade, the world was uncertain. But inside, there was at least the comfort of defense. As time passed, timber gave way to stone. Stone castles rose, massive and enduring, with keeps that loomed above valleys, with towers that watched across miles, with moats, drawbridges, and walls so thick that a storm of arrows could not break them. The knight, whose power grew in these centuries, found his place within these walls. For castles were more than shelters. They were homes of lords, seats of government, centers of justice, and stages where knights displayed their loyalty. Imagine a castle courtyard in the morning, the clang of a blacksmith's hammer on iron, sparks leaping into the air, horses being led to water troughs, pages sweeping the yard, squires practicing with wooden swords, a cook calling out orders, chickens scattering across cobblestones, and among it all, knights preparing, tightening straps of armor, inspecting shields, standing tall beneath the rising sun. The castle was not silent stone. It was alive. Yet its strength was also symbolic. When villagers saw a castle on the horizon, they felt a kind of reassurance. Here was a place of power. Here lived the one who would send his knights to defend. Here, the Lord's authority could not easily be broken. Breathe softly, and picture nightfall. Within the hall, torches flicker, banners hang. The Lord sits at table, knights beside him, their armor set aside, goblets raised in drink. Stories are told of battles past. Songs echo from the minstrels. Outside the thick walls, the forest waits. The wind howls. But within, the stone holds strong. Castles and strongholds gave knights not only protection, but also identity. They were tied to place, to land, to a visible center of power, and castles multiplied across Europe. In Normandy, great keeps rose above rivers. In England, after William the Conqueror's conquest, hundreds of castles were planted in the soil, like seeds of authority. In France, towers overlooked fertile plains. In Spain, fortresses clung to ridges, watching the frontier with the Moors. Everywhere, the landscape changed. No longer empty hills, but crowned with stone. And within those stones, knights sharpened their skills. They trained in courtyards, tilted with lances, wrestled in armor, learned to climb and defend the battlements. The castle was a school of war, but also a theater of loyalty. For it was there that oaths were sworn, that vassals bent the knee, that promises of service were sealed. Imagine the sound. A knight kneeling before his lord. The hall hushed. The words of fealty spoken. A hand upon his shoulder. The weight of obligation settling upon him. And outside, the walls of stone hold the vow in silence. Castles were not invincible. They were besieged, battered, burned. Yet even their ruins carried power. Even now, centuries later, when we see their broken towers on hillsides, we feel the echo of knights who once rode forth through their gates, of lords who once ruled from their halls, of banners that once flew above their battlements. So breathe deeply and let the image linger. A castle at dawn, mist curling around its base. A rider emerging from the gate, lance held high. His horse's hooves echo on the drawbridge. Beyond the moat, the world awaits. The knight has a home now, not only in his heart and his oath, but in stone. The castle is his anchor, his fortress, his symbol. And as castles rose higher, knights rose with them, bound to defend them, bound to serve them, bound to gain power within their walls. This is the age when knights began to step out of shadow, not yet fully cloaked in chivalry, not yet sung in endless ballads, but already, unmistakably, men of power. The stone strongholds had given them form, and from these keeps, the story flows onward, toward oaths of loyalty, toward the sword and the cross, toward the age of chivalry itself. But for tonight, we linger here, within the walls of stone, letting them guard us, too, like listeners resting beneath the towers of history. Sleep if you wish, or dream onward, for the nights are only beginning their rise. What if you stood in a great hall, stone walls rising around you, banners swaying gently in the dim torchlight, and before you, a man kneels, his head bowed, his hands clasped within the hands of another? What if, in that moment, history itself leaned closer? For here was the birth of loyalty, the shaping of power, the quiet promise that turned warriors into knights. This was the oath of fealty, the binding vow between lord and vassal, between knight and master. Close your eyes and hear the hush of that hall. The villagers outside know little of what is spoken here, yet their lives will depend on it. For when raiders come, when enemies threaten, it will be the knight who rides. And the knight rides because of this vow, this ancient ritual that joins one life to another. The ceremony is simple, yet heavy with meaning. The vassal kneels, bowing low before his lord, his hands placed between the lord's hands, a gesture of humility, of trust. of surrender. Words are spoken softly. I become your man. I swear to serve you faithfully, with life and limb, with honor and loyalty. The Lord, in turn, lifts him, gives him the kiss of peace upon the cheek, and speaks, I promise to protect you, to defend your rights, to keep you in my faith, as my vassal, my knight. And with this, the bond is sealed. It is not parchment or ink that binds them, but honor, trust, faith in the weight of a man's word. Breathe slowly, and let this image settle in your mind. A hall lit by firelight, the smell of smoke and roasted meat, the sound of distant bells, and in the center, a man rising from his knees. No longer a lone warrior, but a knight bound to his lord. This oath was more than private promise. It was the fabric of feudal life, woven across Europe like threads of a vast tapestry, each thread binding one man to another, each bond creating a web of service and protection. From king to great lords, from great lords to knights, from knights to squires and peasants, the chain of loyalty stretched outward, a pattern of power, fragile yet enduring. And at the heart of this chain stood the knight. Imagine, now, a young squire who has long tended horses, polished armor, carried weapons. Now he kneels for the first time, his heart racing, his breath shallow. He speaks the words, trembling, feeling the hand of his lord close around his own. In that moment, his life changes. He is no longer only a servant. He is a vassal, a man of honor. And soon, he will bear sword and shield in battle, carrying not only his own fate, but the promise he has sworn. The oath of loyalty gave knights purpose. It made them more than mercenaries, more than soldiers for hire. They were bound by ties of faith, ties that shaped their very identity. But oaths also carried weight and burden. For if a knight betrayed his vow, if he turned against his lord, he was not only dishonored, he was despised, stripped of place, of title, of meaning. And so knights guarded their loyalty closely, as carefully as they guarded their swords. Pause. Breathe. Feel the stillness of this vow. In the quiet of the hall, the world outside fades. Only the clasped hands remain. The whispered promise. The meeting of eyes. This ritual would echo across centuries, repeated in castles, in courts, in battlefields before war, each time reminding knight and lord alike that power was not only strength, but trust. And it was here, in these oaths of loyalty, that the true rise of knights began. For loyalty gave them place, gave them identity, and gave them a path to power. Imagine now a knight riding forth from the castle gates after swearing his vow, his banner streaming in the wind, his armor gleaming in sunlight. His lord watches from the battlements, knowing this man rides not for coin alone, but for duty. The knight rides with purpose, and that purpose makes him strong. So drift with this thought, softly, slowly, that in the silence of a hall, in the clasp of hands, in the words of a promise, the power of knights was born. And as the vow settled into the heart of Europe, knights themselves became bound to something greater than themselves. The story flows onward, toward faith and the blessing of the sword, toward the church's touch upon the warrior's shoulder, toward the blending of sword and cross. But tonight, we rest for a moment in the hush of the hall, where loyalty was sworn, and history quietly changed. What if a sword was not only a weapon, but a blessing? What if, before it was ever lifted in battle, it was laid upon an altar, sprinkled with holy water, marked with the sign of the cross? What if the knight was not only a fighter, but a guardian of faith? In the world of the Middle Ages, the church was everywhere. Its bells tolled across the valleys. Its prayers filled the air at dawn and dusk. Its stone towers rose above towns and villages, reminding all that heaven watched above. And the knights, those warriors bound by oaths of loyalty, began to take their place within this sacred order. Close your eyes and imagine a chapel within a castle. The air cool and still, candles flickering along the altar, a priest standing in white robes. A young man kneels before him, sword laid across his hands. The priest blesses the blade. May this sword defend the innocent. May it shield the weak. May it strike only in justice and truth. And the young man bows his head, feeling the weight of both weapon and vow. This was the moment when the sword and the cross intertwined. For the church, wary of violence, also recognized its need. Europe was a land of raids and wars. And yet, within that turmoil, there was hope that warriors could be guided, shaped, transformed into defenders of the poor, protectors of the faith. And so the church blessed the knight's role, giving sacred weight to his power. Breathe softly, and picture a knight riding through a village. Villagers bow as he passes, not only in fear of his sword, but in reverence, for he carries the sign of the cross upon his shield. His duty is not only to his Lord, but to God himself. the fusion of sword and cross was not without tension. Knights were still men of war. Blood was still shed, fields still burned, castles still besieged. Yet through the blessing of the Church, their violence was given purpose, framed as service rather than greed. It was in this age that the idea of the knight as a holy defender began to grow. Imagine a ceremony at dawn. A knight-to-be keeps vigil through the night, praying in silence, his sword laid before him, his armor polished, his heart restless. At first light, he kneels before altar and Lord alike. The sword is raised, then lowered gently upon his shoulder. And with that simple touch, he rises a knight. Not only a warrior, but a man of faith. This ritual, known as the dubbing, became one of the most sacred moments of a knight's life. The sword, once a tool of battle, was sanctified. The cross, once a symbol of suffering, became a banner of defense. And so knights carried both. Breathe again. Slowly. Picture a battlefield now. Banners rising in the wind. Some carry the emblems of lords. Lions, eagles, fleur-de-lis. Others carry the cross, red upon white, a symbol of divine protection. Knights ride into battle with lances lowered, believing their charge is not only for land or lord, but for heaven itself. This union of faith and war would shape the centuries to come. For soon, the Church would call upon knights to march not only across their own lands, but across the seas, toward Jerusalem, toward the holy places of Christendom, toward crusades that would change the world. But even before that call, the image was set. The knight was not only a mounted warrior, not only a man bound by oath, but a servant of both sword and cross. Villagers prayed for their protection. Lords depended on their service. Priests blessed their blades. And in songs sung by minstrels, the knight was no longer only fierce, but noble, devout, righteous. So rest softly in this thought, that the sound of hooves across the earth was heard as both war and prayer, that the sword gleaming in torchlight was both weapon and relic, that the knight himself was both soldier and servant of heaven. The story of knighthood flows onward, toward the poetry of chivalry, toward the ideals sung in courts, toward the gentle virtues that would be wrapped around steel and blood. But for tonight, we linger in the chapel, candles glowing, prayers whispered, a sword blessed, a knight kneeling, the sword and the cross, forever bound. What if, beneath the heavy armor, beneath the steel and the chain, There was another image. A gentler one. What if the knight was not only a fighter, but a figure of honor? A man who bowed not only before his lord, but also before the virtues of courtesy and grace. What if, alongside the battlefield, there was the garden, the court, the song of the minstrel? This was the dream of chivalry. Close your eyes and picture it. A great hall, its rafters high, banners swaying above. The feast has ended, torches glow low, and into the quiet steps a poet, a troubadour. He carries a lute, strums softly. His voice drifts like smoke, telling of knights who guard the weak, who defend the innocent, who serve their ladies with loyalty and devotion. Around the tables, knights listen. They smile, they nod. Some blush at the mention of love. And slowly, the idea seeps into the hall that a knight is not only fierce, but noble. Not only strong, but gentle. The word chivalry itself comes from the horse, the cheval. For to be a knight was to be mounted, to ride. Yet the word grew to mean something more. Not only the rider, but the code he carried. Breathe softly, and imagine a knight riding at dawn. His armor glints in the first light, but on his shield, beyond the lion or eagle of his lord, there is a meaning deeper still. He carries honor itself. The code of chivalry was never written in one place, never fixed in stone. It was more like a whisper, a dream passed in stories and songs. Knights were urged to be brave in battle, but also merciful in victory. They were taught to be loyal to their lords, but also courteous to women. They were guided to defend the church, but also to protect the helpless. And though the reality was often harsher, the dream lingered, shaping how knights were seen, and how they wished to see themselves. Imagine now a lady in a tower, weaving at her loom. She hears hoofbeats in the courtyard below. She leans from her window and sees her knight, her champion, returning from the field. He lifts his helm, bows to her, and she smiles. This image, sung in countless songs, painted in countless words, was the chivalric dream. It gave knights something more than power. It gave them poetry. Breathe again. Slowly. Feel the hush of a courtyard at twilight. Knights gathering for a tournament, not only to test their strength, but to prove their honor, to show that their courage was matched with grace. Trumpets sound, lances lower, hooves thunder, and yet, beneath the clash of shields, there is the softer note. The watching eyes of ladies upon the stands. The songs that will be sung afterward of courage and courtesy. The reality was often blood and broken bone. Yet the story told was gentler. And stories have power. Chivalry wrapped around knighthood like a cloak. It softened its rough edges, turned warriors into heroes, and gave the people an image to hold onto in a world that was often harsh and cruel. Knights were not always kind, not always noble, but in song, in story, they were ideals. And ideals have a way of shaping truth. So rest here, softly, in this dream of chivalry. Imagine yourself in a candlelit hall. Troubadours singing, knights bowing, ladies smiling, children listening wide-eyed. The air is warm, filled with laughter. For a moment, the violence of the outside world fades. And within these walls, there is only courtesy, loyalty, and love. This was chivalry, the dream that made knighthood beautiful, even when reality was not. And as centuries passed, the dream would endure, carried in stories of Arthur and his round table, in the tale of Roland, in countless chansons de geste, the songs of deeds. Knighthood was never only steel and blood. It was also song and story. And in those stories, the knight found his truest power. So drift a little deeper. Rest in the lull of the troubadour's song. Let the dream of chivalry wrap around you like a blanket. For though the knight's sword may gleam, his truest light shines in the ideal of honor. The story flows onward, toward daily life, toward the training and toil that shaped these men from youth, toward the long path from page to squire to knight. But for now, we linger in the gentle dream, where chivalry emerges, like a candle glowing in the dark. What if, beneath the shining armor, beneath the banners and the vows, there was the quiet sound of footsteps on stone floors, the smell of hay in the stables, the endless rhythm of practice, of care, of ordinary toil? What if the path to knighthood was not a single moment, but a lifetime of days? Close your eyes and walk with me into the courtyard of a castle. The sun has just risen. Mist drifts from the fields. Horses stamp their hooves, restless for the day. And in the yard, boys and young men gather, wooden swords in hand. They are squires, apprentices to knights, and their days are long. They rise before dawn, tending to the horses, brushing their coats until they shine, cleaning hooves, tightening saddles, checking reins. They carry armor piece by piece, heavy with iron and leather. They polish chainmail until it glimmers like water. They learn to serve at table, pouring wine for their lord, carving meat with careful hands. And when duties are done, they train, hour after hour, swinging swords of wood, raising shields until arms ache, falling, rising, striking again. The path is hard, yet each day shapes them. Breathe slowly, and picture one squire now. A boy of 14, his hair damp with sweat, his tunic clinging to his back. He lifts his wooden blade, swings at a post again and again. His breath comes ragged, but in his eyes is determination. He dreams of the day when he will kneel and rise a knight. The training of a knight was not only strength, but skill, balance, patience. They learned to ride with precision, guiding their horses with knees and touch. They practiced the lance, the tilt of the spear beneath the arm, the steady aim of its point. They hunted in forests, learning not only the chase, but the bond with horse and hound. They wrestled, they boxed, they raced, their bodies hardened by years of discipline. And always, they served. For to be a knight was not only to command, but to obey, to learn humility, to carry armor for another before bearing one's own. Imagine now the long evenings in the hall, after training, after duties. The squire sits at the edge of the fire, listening as older knights speak of battles fought, of journeys made, of lords served. His eyes shine. He dreams. In daily life, knights themselves lived with rhythm. Morning prayers, meals of bread and cheese, the tending of weapons. Some days meant patrols across the land, watching fields, keeping roads safe. Other days meant hunting with their lord. The chase through forest, the thrill of the stag brought down. And in quieter hours, they listened to poets, to priests, to the slow reading of scripture in the hall. For knights were both warriors and household men, tied to the rhythms of castle and village alike. Breathe again. Smell the smoke of the hearth, the leather of saddles, the damp stone after rain. Hear the clang of steel in the yard, the laughter of boys as they wrestle in practice, the call of a horn at dusk, signaling the closing of the gates. This was daily life. Not always grand, not always heroic, but steady, enduring. And in these daily patterns, the knight was formed. By discipline, by service, by patience. He did not leap into knighthood in a single day. He grew into it. With every dawn, every duty, every practice strike. So when we think of knights, remember not only the glitter of armor in sunlight, but also the sweat of mornings in the yard, the ache of sore muscles, the simple meals shared with squires. For it was in daily life that the dream was forged. The story drifts onward, toward battle, toward the clash of armies, toward the knight's place in war. But for this moment, we linger in the castle yard. Wooden swords thudding, horses neighing, the laughter of squires echoing in the cool morning air. And in that sound, in that rhythm, the life of a night slowly takes shape. What if you stood upon a hill at dawn, the mist still clinging to the earth, and below, an army gathered, armor glinting faintly in the pale light? What if you could hear the low murmur of voices, the snort of horses, the distant roll of drums? What if, in that stillness, you knew that soon the ground would tremble, that the charge of knights would split the earth like thunder? This was the moment knights were made for. The field of battle. Breathe slowly, and let the scene unfold. Knights gather in lines, lances held steady, banners rippling, each man armored, each horse armored too. The smell of iron and leather fills the air. A priest moves among them, lifting a cross, blessing the riders, murmuring prayers. The commander raises his hand. Silence falls. And then the horn sounds. The hooves strike the earth. First slowly, then faster, pounding like the heartbeat of the land itself. The knights lower their lances. The line becomes a wall of steel and wood. And then the crash, the shattering, shield against shield, spear against armor, cries rising into the air. This was the power of knights in war. The mounted charge was like nothing the world had seen before. A wall of men and horses, heavy with iron, unstoppable when well formed. Enemies scattered before them. Infantry broken, lines shattered. The sight of it alone was enough to unnerve. Close your eyes and imagine the ground trembling beneath you. The roar of hooves surrounding you. The flash of sunlight on steel. Yet battle was not only glory. It was chaos. Dust rising. Men falling. Horses screaming. The clash of swords was sharp, ringing. Sparks flew from steel. The air filled with cries of pain, with the groan of wounded men. And yet, through this storm, the knight pressed on. Bound by his oath, driven by duty, carried by the strength of his mount. Breathe softly. Feel the weight of armor upon your shoulders. The pull of reins in your hands. The lunge of your horse beneath you. Imagine the lance splintering, shattering as it strikes a shield. The sudden need to draw sword, to fight hand to hand. Battles in the Middle Ages were fierce, brief, decided by charges, by courage, by the strength of knights at their core. The knight's power was not only his skill, but the fear he inspired. To see a mounted warrior in full charge was to glimpse something larger than life. The peasants who farmed the fields could never match it. The foot soldiers who carried spears often broke at its sight. And so knights became the heart of medieval armies. Pause. Breathe. Let the sound of battle soften in your mind. For though battles raged with fury, in memory they become slow, distant, like echoes across time. Picture the field after. The dust settles. The cries fade. The sun lowers in the sky. And upon the earth lie broken lances, shattered shields, helmets lost in the grass. Knights dismount. Weary, blooded. Some victorious. Some grieving. Battle was never only triumph. It was loss. Sacrifice. Sorrow. Yet through it all, the image of the knight endured. As protector. As warrior. As the armored wall between lord and foe. And in their victories, lords rose in power. Kingdoms expanded. Lands were secured. The knight was not only a man in armor. He was a force that shaped the course of nations. So drift with this thought, softly, that the thunder of hooves, the clash of swords, the charge across the field, echoed through centuries. It gave knights not only glory, but power. And as we leave the battlefield now, as the dust settles and the silence returns, we carry the image with us. The knight in battle. Fierce, unyielding. The story flows onward. Toward tournaments, where battle became sport. Where knights proved their skill not in blood, but in contest. But for now, we rest in the quiet after war. The earth is still. The night has come. The stars shine once more over the silent field. And the knights, weary and scarred, return to their halls. What if the thunder of hooves, the clash of lances, the roar of the crowd could be heard not in war, but in celebration? What if the knight's charge was not toward enemies, but toward comrades, in a game of skill, spectacle, and pride? This was the tournament. Close your eyes and imagine a wide field outside the castle walls. Banners ripple in the wind, bright with color. Lions and lilies, eagles and crosses. Tents line the edges, striped in red and gold. Tables laden with food. A crowd gathers, villagers and nobles alike. Their voices rise in excitement. Trumpets sound. A herald steps forward, proclaiming the names of knights, their lineages, their lords. And then, from opposite ends of the field, two riders approach. Their armor gleams. Their lances are lowered. Their horses snort, restless, eager. The crowd holds its breath. And then, the charge. Hooves pound. Lances strike. Splinters fly into the air. One knight wavers. The other holds firm. The crowd erupts in cheers. This was jousting. The heart of the tournament. A contest of courage, of balance, of precision. And yet, tournaments were more than jousts. Knights also fought in melees. Great mock battles where dozens clashed at once. Shields ringing, swords striking, dust rising in clouds. These contests were dangerous. Blood was often shed. Bones broken. Sometimes, lives lost. And yet, they were loved. For here knights proved their worth without the ruin of war. Breathe softly. And imagine the pageantry. Knights dressed in colors. Wearing the emblems of their families. Their shields painted with patterns that told of lineage and pride. Ladies watched from the stands, their gowns bright, their eyes alight with excitement. Sometimes, they would give a token. A ribbon, a scarf, tied to a knight's arm or lance. A symbol of favor, of devotion. And the knight, inspired, rode with greater courage. Greater fire. Tournaments became theater. Feasts followed the contests. Halls filled with laughter, with music, with song. Poets sang of victories. Minstrels strummed their lutes. Children played at being knights, wooden swords in hand. For a moment, the harshness of war faded, replaced by color, celebration, spectacle. Breathe again. Slowly. Hear the trumpets. Feel the ground tremble with the charge. See the glitter of sunlight on polished steel. Tournaments were more than games. They were the stage on which knights displayed themselves. The place where reputations were made. Where loyalty was seen. Where skill became story. And beyond the field, there was politics. Lords gathered to watch. Alliances were forged in conversation. Marriages arranged. Rivalries sparked. The tournament was not only contest, but court. Knights who triumphed in the lists gained fame, wealth, sometimes even the notice of kings. And so tournaments became part of the path to power. A knight might rise from obscurity, if his lance struck true, if his name carried on the lips of poets afterward. Imagine now the evening after. The lists are empty. The field trampled by hooves. Inside the castle hall, candles glow. Knights sit at long tables, eating, drinking, boasting of their feats. A minstrel sings of the bravest charge. The lady smiles at the knight who bore her colors. The day of contest becomes the night of story. And story is what endures. So rest gently in the dream of tournament. It was not always safe, not always fair, not always kind, yet it gave shape to the image of knighthood. And in its pageantry, knights became legends. The story flows onward toward the Crusades, when tournaments gave way again to true war, and knights rode far beyond their homelands. But for tonight, we linger in the painted tents, the cheering crowds, the thunder of lances striking, and in the hush after, we drift slowly toward sleep. What if you heard a summons carried across mountains and valleys? A voice calling knights to leave home, to journey toward lands spoken of in scripture and legend. What if your banner joined the cross of God, and the road ahead was uncertain, dangerous, yet full of hope and purpose? Close your eyes. Breathe slowly. Imagine dawn in a European castle. Mist curls above towers, dew glimmers on gardens. The scent of wood smoke and polished steel drifts through the hall. A herald enters. The Pope's proclamation, Jerusalem, the holy city, calls for defenders. Knights are summoned to take up the cross, to serve God with sword and heart. Breathe softly. Feel the weight of that moment. The young knight rises, sword in hand, shield resting nearby. His heart stirs with awe, fear, and longing. Across Europe, castles echo with the same summons. Armies form, horses are checked, armor polished, banners prepared. Priests bless the warriors, sprinkling holy water, whispering prayers for protection and courage. Families bid farewell. Children cling to fathers, mothers press embroidered tokens against their sons' tunics. Bells toll softly across villages. The first steps of the journey begin. Knights mount their horses, banners fluttering gently in the morning breeze. Squires run alongside, adjusting saddles, tending horses. The procession moves through forests, fields, and villages, day by day, step by step, toward the unknown. Breathe slowly. Feel the rhythm of hooves on earth, the rustle of leaves, the murmuring streams. The landscape changes, rolling hills giving way to rocky paths, distant forests, and winding valleys. Travel is long. Knights walk beside tired horses, checking armor, mending straps, sharing bread and water. Smoke from campfires mixes with dust and leather. Nights are quiet, under vast starry skies. Campfires flicker, horses breathe softly, knights kneel in prayer, whispering their hopes, fears, and devotion. Minstrels sing quietly, soothing tired bodies with gentle songs. The journey continues to Mediterranean ports. Ships await, laden with horses, provisions, and men. Horses are guided carefully onto vessels, armor clinking, the sea stretching wide beneath the sun. Breathe. Feel the gentle roll of waves, the wind in hair, the sun on skin. Hours pass slowly, men talking quietly, sharing memories of tournaments, home, and dreams of the holy city. Storms may rock the ships, waves crash over decks, horses panic, sailors shout commands. Knights endure, support each other, tend to animals, keeping morale high. At last, arrival on foreign shores. The scent of dry earth, spices, and distant seas fills the air. Cities of stone rise, narrow streets wind, markets bustle with color and sound. Knights dismount, stretching stiff limbs, breathing in this new, sacred, strange land. Breathe slowly. Feel the awe, excitement, and apprehension. Jerusalem and the surrounding lands await, full of history, faith, and challenge. Knights patrol, guard villages, escort pilgrims, engage in skirmishes. The sun beats down, the air dry and sharp, rivers and hills present trials. Yet, in these tasks, courage, discipline, and unity are strengthened. Evenings are for reflection. Fires crackle, stars shimmer above, knights kneel in prayer, share stories, remember home. The journey transforms them, teaching endurance, humility, and wisdom. Breathe softly. Imagine the quiet night, the rhythm of horses, the warmth of the fire, the whisper of prayer. The call of the Crusades is fulfilled in journey and devotion, in the tests of courage and the witness of history. The knights carry the ideals of their order, the vows of their oath, and the lessons of their homeland. From Europe to the Mediterranean, from ports to plains, from cities to hillsides, each step is part of the rhythm of knighthood. Night falls. The camp grows silent. Fires burn low, shadows stretch, horses rest, and the knights sleep, hearts full of purpose and reflection. And so, we linger here, feeling hooves on earth, wind in hair, the steady pulse of the journey, and the gentle call of faith, courage, and honor. The story flows onward, ever onward, toward the battles, sieges, and lives the Crusades will shape. What if you arrived in a land both familiar and strange? The sun spilling gold over high stone walls, narrow streets winding like threads through bustling markets, and the scent of spices, bread, and roasting meat drifting lazily through the air. Close your eyes. Breathe slowly. Imagine knights dismounting at dawn, stretching stiff limbs after long travels, feeling the warmth of the sun on their polished armor, the roughness of cobbled streets beneath their boots. Horses nicker softly, shaking off sleep, ears twitching, nostrils flaring at the unfamiliar scents of herbs, dry earth, and the distant sea. The Crusader states are young, fragile kingdoms, built from conquest, hope, and faith. Cities like Jerusalem, Acre, and Anch pulse with life, filled with soldiers, pilgrims, artisans, merchants, and families who have journeyed across seas to build homes, to defend, to live. Every street, every stone, every bustling market carries stories of struggle, survival, devotion, and the blending of cultures. Breathe slowly and picture the morning in one of these cities. Knights prepare for the day, polishing armor, checking weapons, feeding horses. Squires carry water, adjust saddles, and tend to the animals with careful, practiced hands. Minstrels tune lutes and harps. Merchants call their wares, spices, and fabrics bright against the sunlit streets. The city hums with purpose and life, a rhythm of vigilance, learning, and quiet meditation. Patrols are essential. Knights ride dusty roads, escort pilgrims, visit distant villages, and watch for bandits or raiders. Each patrol is a test of endurance, skill, and observation. And yet, even amidst vigilance, there is room for reflection, for prayer, for appreciating the foreign beauty of the land. Olive groves, stone fountains, rolling hills in the distance, the gentle trickle of streams. Every moment teaches awareness, patience, and quiet respect for the world around them. Imagine a knight walking through a bustling market. Children dart around, marveling at polished armor, clattering swords, and fluttering banners. Merchants call their wares, colorful fabrics, fragrant oils, gleaming pottery, and sweet treats. The smells, sounds, and colors are alien yet inviting, a sensory tapestry of a world both exciting and humbling. Knights move slowly, observing, interacting, learning the ways of a land that is both theirs to defend and theirs to understand. Breathe softly. Picture the fortress walls at midday. Guards pace the ramparts, sun warming the stone, banners rippling in the wind. Inside the fortress, scribes copy letters and chronicles, priests bless the garrison, cooks prepare meals, and the rhythm of life continues, steady, deliberate, and necessary. Knights train as well. Swordplay, lance drills, horseback maneuvers, shield practice. Discipline is constant, for every day carries risks, and every knight must remain vigilant, ready to respond to threats near or far. Yet culture and learning flourish alongside martial discipline. Crusader cities are crossroads of knowledge, faith, and artistry. Scholars arrive from Europe, Byzantium, and the Levant. Craftsmen teach skills in metalwork, carpentry, weaving, and pottery. Minstrels and poets sing tales of valor, devotion, and distant lands, weaving past and present into songs that lift the heart and calm the mind. Breathe slowly. Drift through the quiet streets and wide courtyards. Hear children laughing as they play with sticks as swords. Hear the faint clash of blades in training yards, the soft hum of prayer rising from chapels tucked between buildings. Life is a mosaic of vigilance, curiosity, learning, and quiet reflection. Festivals and feasts break the routine. Religious celebrations, victories in battle, and seasonal gatherings bring knights, nobles, and townsfolk together. Long tables grown with roasted meats, fresh bread, fruits, and sweet delicacies. Candles flicker, illuminating stone walls, tapestries, and faces full of conversation and laughter. Stories of distant battles, heroic deeds, and saints are shared. Music drifts across halls, soft and melodic, carrying the day's joys and solemnities alike. Evenings are moments for reflection. Fires crackle gently, horses breathe softly, stars shimmer above city walls, distant hills, and desert plains. Knights write letters home, share stories of their homeland, and kneel in quiet prayer, thinking of journeys past and responsibilities yet to come. Breathe deeply. Picture knights venturing beyond city walls, observing local villages, speaking with merchants and artisans, learning foreign customs, and forming alliances. Every encounter teaches patience, diplomacy, and the art of adapting without losing honor or purpose. Night falls fully. Lanterns glow softly, fires burn low, streets grow quiet. Horses rest, tents flap gently in the breeze, knights sleep, hearts full of reflection and resolve, ready to rise with the dawn to continue their watch, training, and daily life. Life in the Crusader states is challenging, yet purposeful. Faith, duty, honor, and courage guide each day. Each patrol, each prayer, each act of service becomes a meditation in courage, endurance, and reflection. And in this quiet rhythm, the knight's story unfolds, steady, enduring, and full of meaning. Breathe slowly. Let the city, the fortress, the markets, the roads, and the distant hills fade gently into your imagination. The pulse of life continues, measured and calm, carrying ideals across faraway lands, blending vigilance with meditation, duty with reflection, and courage with humility. What if? Every sword lifted, every shield clasped, and every oath sworn carried not just weight and steel, but a deeper purpose. A rhythm of loyalty, devotion, and reflection that echoes across generations. Close your eyes. Breathe slowly. Imagine a young squire standing in a quiet chapel, sunlight spilling through stained glass, warming the stone floor beneath his bare feet. The air is still, fragrant with incense and the faint scent of polished wood. He listens as a priest speaks softly of honor, courage, and faith. Knighthood is more than skill in battle. It is a life of rituals and oaths. Each ceremony marks a passage, a step into responsibility, a quiet meditation on duty and loyalty. The squire bows, kneels, and feels the weight of history pressing gently on his shoulders. Breathe softly. Imagine the ceremony of dubbing. The clang of armor is replaced by the soft whispers of prayer, the touch of the sword on shoulders, the silent gaze of fellow knights. Anointed with oil, blessed with holy words, the new knight rises, carrying the responsibilities of protection, service, and honor. The bonds between knights are sacred. Shared meals, long rides, and nightly vigils create a web of trust and understanding. Comradeship is built on shared experience, on the quiet knowledge that each will protect and guide the other, even in the darkest hours. Picture knights sitting by a campfire under the stars. They share stories of battles fought, of victories and losses, of honor earned and lessons learned. Laughter rises softly, mingling with the crackle of flames and the gentle breathing of horses nearby. Breathe slowly. Feel the rhythm of their conversation, the warmth of shared experience, the quiet pulse of loyalty and faith that binds them together. Knights are shaped not only by skill with sword and lance, but by these quiet, sacred connections. Rituals continue beyond the ceremonial. Morning prayers, the polishing of armor, the care of horses, the tending of weapons. Each act is deliberate, meditative, a practice of discipline and reflection. Knights move through the day with mindfulness, aware of their duties, aware of their place in a larger story. Even in battle, these bonds and rituals are present. The call to fight is tempered by honor, strategy, and protection of one another. Knights do not act alone. Each step, each strike, each defense is part of a silent rhythm of trust, courage, and shared purpose. Breathe deeply. Imagine a knight kneeling alone at dawn, sword planted before him, praying softly for guidance, protection, and wisdom. Around him, the camp is quiet, horses shifting in their stalls, banners fluttering gently in the morning breeze. These rituals and bonds carry forward the essence of knighthood. The courage to face hardship, the patience to endure, the loyalty to one's comrades, and the devotion to faith and honor. Every day is a meditation in action, a continuous journey of character and spirit. Evenings bring reflection. Fires burn low, stars shimmer above city walls, distant hills, and quiet plains. Knights write letters home, share prayers, and contemplate the responsibilities they carry. Every action of the day is woven into the tapestry of their life, connecting duty, faith, and reflection. Breathe softly. Let the rhythm of ritual and camaraderie fill your mind. The quiet lessons, the whispered prayers, the gentle touch of sword on shoulder, the laughter around the fire. All of these are part of the life of a knight. And as night falls, the camp quiets. Horses rest, tents flap softly in the breeze. The faint murmur of prayer rises from chapels and small gatherings. Knights sleep, hearts full of reflection, ready to rise with the dawn to continue the rhythms of duty, ritual, and loyalty. Life as a knight is a delicate balance. Between action and meditation, battle and reflection, loyalty and solitude. Every ritual, every bond, every prayer, and every shared moment strengthens the spirit, forging men of courage, patience, and wisdom. Breathe slowly. Drift gently with the cadence of knighthood. Feel the quiet presence of comrades, the solemnity of rituals, the calm of reflection, and the enduring rhythm of honor, courage, and faith. And so, the story of knighthood continues. Every sword raised, every oath sworn, every bond forged, every quiet reflection becomes part of a legacy that echoes across time, carrying the ideals of honor, devotion, and courage. What if? Every sword lifted, every shield clasped, every oath sworn carried not just weight and steel, but a deeper purpose. A rhythm of loyalty, devotion, and reflection that echoes across generations. Close your eyes. Breathe slowly. Imagine a young squire standing in a quiet chapel, sunlight spilling through stained glass, warming the stone floor beneath his bare feet. The air is still, fragrant with incense and polished wood. He listens as a priest speaks softly of honor, courage, and faith. Knighthood is more than skill in battle. It is a life of rituals and oaths, of quiet reflection and solemn commitment. Each ceremony marks a passage, a step into responsibility, a meditation on duty and loyalty. The squire bows, kneels, and feels the weight of history pressing gently on his shoulders. Breathe softly. Imagine the ceremony of dubbing. The clang of armor is replaced by the soft whispers of prayer, the touch of the sword on shoulders, the silent gaze of fellow knights. Anointed with oil, blessed with holy words, the new knight rises, carrying responsibilities of protection, service, and honor. The bonds between knights are sacred. Shared meals, long rides, and nightly vigils create a web of trust and understanding. Comradeship is built on shared experience, on the quiet knowledge that each will protect and guide the other, even in the darkest hours. Picture knights sitting by a campfire under the stars. They share stories of battles fought, of victories and losses, of honor earned and lessons learned. Laughter rises softly, mingling with the crackle of flames and the gentle breathing of horses nearby. Breathe slowly. Feel the rhythm of their conversation, the warmth of shared experience, the quiet pulse of loyalty and faith that binds them together. Knights are shaped not only by skill with sword and lance, but by these quiet, sacred connections. Rituals extend beyond ceremonies. Morning prayers, polishing armor, tending horses, preparing weapons. Each act is deliberate, meditative, a practice of discipline and reflection. Knights move through the day with mindfulness, aware of duties, aware of their place in a larger story. Even in battle, these bonds and rituals are present. The call to fight is tempered by honor, strategy, and the protection of one another. Knights do not act alone. Each step, each strike, each defense is part of a silent rhythm of trust, courage, and shared purpose. Breathe deeply. Imagine a knight kneeling alone at dawn, sword planted before him, praying softly for guidance, protection, and wisdom. Around him, the camp is quiet, horses shifting in stalls, banners fluttering gently in the morning breeze. These rituals and bonds carry forward the essence of knighthood. The courage to face hardship, the patience to endure, the loyalty to one's comrades, and the devotion to faith and honor. Every day is a meditation in action, a continuous journey of character and spirit. Knights often engage in shared rituals of storytelling and reflection. In the evening, tales of past battles, heroic deeds, or ancient legends are recounted softly around fires. Each story is a meditation, a gentle teaching of humility, courage, and devotion. The night air carries the murmur of voices, the rustle of leather, the soft stamping of horses. Breathe slowly. Imagine these quiet nights stretching across hills and plains. Lanterns glow, fires burn low, tents flap softly in the breeze. Knights write letters home, pray for loved ones, and reflect on lessons of the day. The quiet moments between duties are as important as the battles themselves. The daily rhythms of life in camp reinforce the bonds of knighthood. Shared meals, morning drills, evening prayers, maintenance of weapons and armor. Each action is an echo of tradition, a meditation, a thread connecting past, present, and future. Breathe softly. Picture knights walking together along walls and courtyards, exchanging words of encouragement, subtle laughter, or solemn reflection. The quiet understanding that each relies on the other for safety, guidance, and companionship. Even in foreign lands, these rituals provide comfort. Patrols, guard duty, and long marches are tempered with prayers, blessings, and shared songs. Each act, however small, reinforces courage, faith, and camaraderie. Night falls fully. The camp quiets. Fires burn low, lanterns glow softly, horses rest, tents flap gently in the breeze. Nights sleep, hearts full of reflection, ready to rise with the dawn to continue the cycles of duty, ritual, and loyalty. Life as a knight is a delicate balance between action and meditation, battle and reflection, loyalty and solitude. Every ritual, every bond, every prayer, every shared moment strengthens the spirit, forging men of courage, patience, and wisdom. Breathe slowly. Drift gently with the cadence of knighthood. Feel the quiet presence of comrades, the solemnity of rituals, the calm of reflection, and the enduring rhythm of honor, courage, and faith. And so, the story of knighthood continues. Every sword raised, every oath sworn, every bond forged, every quiet reflection becomes part of a legacy that echoes across time, carrying the ideals of honor, devotion, and courage. What if? Every clash of lance and sword, every cheer and cry, carried not only the thrill of competition, but a quiet rhythm of discipline, courage, and honor. Close your eyes. Breathe slowly. Imagine a grassy field at dawn, mist curling along the edges of the tournament grounds. Banners flutter in the gentle morning breeze, the colors of noble houses bright against soft light. Knights ride slowly, checking armor and mounts, feeling the weight of steel and leather, the familiar balance of sword and shield in their hands. Tournaments are more than contests of strength. They are rituals of knighthood, testing skill, endurance, and focus. Each tilt and thrust, each swing and parry, is deliberate, a meditation in motion. Breathe softly. Picture knights circling the lists, their horses prancing lightly, hooves kicking up dew from the grass. Lances are leveled, shields raised, eyes calm but attentive. Every movement rehearsed, every detail deliberate, every heartbeat measured. The crowd murmurs softly. Nobles, citizens, and fellow knights watch, yet the focus remains on the rhythm of the duel. The clash of wood on steel echoes across the field, a steady percussion that marks discipline, practice, and respect. Tournaments are also lessons in patience. A knight must wait his turn, observe others, learn from mistakes, and prepare mentally for each encounter. The quiet tension, the slow preparation, the mindfulness of each step, all contribute to the development of skill and character. Imagine the jousts beginning. Knights charge, lances aiming, horses galloping with steady rhythm. Each tilt tests balance, timing, precision. The impact echoes, not harshly, but like a deliberate punctuation in a meditative story. Shields splinter, armor dents, yet no malice guides the strikes. All is honor, all is learning, all is practice in courage and focus. Breathe slowly. Picture the melee, a different trial. Knights test themselves in groups, practicing coordination, adaptability, and quick thinking. The clash of swords, the shouts, the careful observation of one another, all move like a flowing dance. Every move is deliberate, every retreat and advance measured, every strike and block part of a quiet lesson in control, patience, and skill. Tournaments also carry the weight of ceremony. Heralds announce participants, banners wave, trumpets sound, and prayers are offered before each contest. Rituals frame the competition, blending action with reflection, excitement with mindfulness. Between trials, knights care for their mounts, inspect armor, and reflect on their performance. Every scratch, dent, and bruise is noted, a lesson learned, a moment of growth. Comrades offer advice softly, encouragement passes in quiet words and glances. Breathe deeply. Imagine the quiet evenings after a day of trials. Fires crackle, tents flap gently, horses shift, and knights sit together sharing stories, recounting lessons, and reflecting on the challenges faced. Every experience contributes to the growth of skill, discipline, and character. Tournaments are not only displays of martial prowess. They are reflections of the ideals of knighthood. Honor, courage, loyalty, patience, and faith guide every action. Winning or losing is secondary to the quiet development of mind, body, and spirit. Breathe softly. Picture a knight cleaning his armor by firelight, polishing his sword, whispering a prayer of thanks for safety and guidance. Outside, the night is calm, stars shimmer above, and the distant hills lie quiet and waiting. Even in competition, lessons ripple across time. Young squires observe, learning not only techniques but the deeper values of respect, endurance, and careful focus. Experienced knights mentor quietly, guiding without harshness, teaching through example and gentle advice. Tournaments and trials shape the rhythm of knighthood. They are part of the larger story, a slow, flowing meditation in courage, patience, skill, and reflection. Every tilt, every swing, every stride of horse and step of foot is part of a quiet dance that balances action and contemplation. And as night falls over the tournament grounds, fires burn low, horses breathe softly, banners droop in the gentle breeze, and knights rest. Hearts are full of reflection, lessons learned, and quiet resolve to rise again with the dawn. Breathe slowly. Let the rhythm of tournaments and trials settle in your mind. The pulse of preparation, the focus of combat, the calm of reflection, and the enduring ideals of courage, honor, and patience. And so, the story continues. Knights train, compete, learn, and grow. Every trial, every tilt, every quiet moment of reflection becomes part of the enduring rhythm of knighthood. What if? Every clash of lance and sword, every cheer and cry, carried not only the thrill of competition, but a quiet rhythm of discipline, courage, and honor. Close your eyes. Breathe slowly. Imagine a grassy field at dawn, mist curling along the edges of the tournament grounds. Banners flutter in the gentle morning breeze, the colors of noble houses bright against soft light. Knights ride slowly, checking armor and mounts, feeling the weight of steel and leather, the familiar balance of sword and shield in their hands. Tournaments are more than contests of strength. They are rituals of knighthood, testing skill, endurance, and focus. Each tilt and thrust, each swing and parry, is deliberate, a meditation in motion. Breathe softly. Picture knights circling the lists, their horses prancing lightly, hooves kicking up dew from the grass. Lances are leveled, shields raised, eyes calm but attentive. Every movement rehearsed, every detail deliberate, every heartbeat measured. The crowd murmurs softly. Nobles, citizens, and fellow knights watch, yet the focus remains on the rhythm of the duel. The clash of wood on steel echoes across the field, a steady percussion that marks discipline, practice, and respect. Tournaments are also lessons in patience. A knight must wait his turn, observe others, learn from mistakes, and prepare mentally for each encounter. The quiet tension, the slow preparation, the mindfulness of each step, all contribute to the development of skill and character. Imagine the jousts beginning. Knights charge, lances aiming, horses galloping with steady rhythm. Each tilt tests balance, timing, precision. The impact echoes, not harshly, but like a deliberate punctuation in a meditative story. Shields splinter, armor dents, yet no malice guides the strikes. All is honor, all is learning, all is practice in courage and focus. Breathe slowly. Picture the melee, a different trial. Knights test themselves in groups, practicing coordination, adaptability, and quick thinking. The clash of swords, the shouts, the careful observation of one another, all move like a flowing dance. Every move is deliberate, every retreat and advance measured, every strike and block part of a quiet lesson in control, patience, and skill. Tournaments also carry the weight of ceremony. Heralds announce participants, banners wave, trumpets sound, and prayers are offered before each contest. Rituals frame the competition, blending action with reflection, excitement with mindfulness. Between trials, knights care for their mounts, inspect armor, and reflect on their performance. Every scratch, dent, and bruise is noted, a lesson learned, a moment of growth. Comrades offer advice softly, encouragement passes in quiet words and glances. Breathe deeply. Imagine the quiet evenings after a day of trials. Fires crackle, tents flap gently, horses shift, and knights sit together sharing stories, recounting lessons, and reflecting on the challenges faced. Every experience contributes to the growth of skill, discipline, and character. Tournaments are not only displays of martial prowess. They are reflections of the ideals of knighthood. Honor, courage, loyalty, patience, and faith guide every action. Winning or losing is secondary to the quiet development of mind, body, and spirit. Breathe softly. Picture a knight cleaning his armor by firelight, polishing his sword, whispering a prayer of thanks for safety and guidance. Outside, the night is calm, stars shimmer above, and the distant hills lie quiet and waiting. Even in competition, lessons ripple across time. Young squires observe, learning not only techniques but the deeper values of respect, endurance, and careful focus. Experienced knights mentor quietly, guiding without harshness, teaching through example and gentle advice. Tournaments and trials shape the rhythm of knighthood. They are part of the larger story, a slow, flowing meditation in courage, patience, skill, and reflection. Every tilt, every swing, every stride of horse and step of foot is part of a quiet dance that balances action and contemplation. And as night falls over the tournament grounds, fires burn low, horses breathe softly, banners droop in the gentle breeze, and knights rest. Hearts are full of reflection, lessons learned, and quiet resolve to rise again with the dawn. Breathe slowly. Let the rhythm of tournaments and trials settle in your mind. The pulse of preparation, the focus of combat, the calm of reflection, and the enduring ideals of courage, honor, and patience. And so, the story continues. Knights train, compete, learn, and grow. Every trial, every tilt, every quiet moment of reflection becomes part of the enduring rhythm of knighthood. What if every battlefield and every quiet village shared the same heartbeat? The same rhythm of vigilance, endurance, and care. Close your eyes. Breathe slowly. Imagine a misty morning over rolling hills. The air is cool, the earth damp beneath horses' hooves. Knights ride slowly, checking armor and weapons, the clinking of metal blending with distant bird calls. War is never constant, but always near. Knights patrol, guard borders, and prepare for campaigns. Yet peace arrives in quiet stretches, offering moments for reflection, repair, and learning. The life of a knight balances between readiness and calm, between courage in battle and patience in peace. Breathe softly. Picture a village under the watch of knights. Farmers till the fields, children play by streams, merchants set up markets. Knights walk among them, alert but gentle, guardians and observers, their presence a quiet reassurance of safety and order. In times of conflict, the clash of armor, the ringing of swords, and the thunder of hooves echo across valleys and hills. Each maneuver is deliberate, every strike considered, every defense measured. Courage is tempered with strategy, discipline, and reflection. Breathe slowly. Imagine the stillness after battle. Dust settles on fields, the sun warms the worn armor, and knights tend the wounded, repair equipment, and reflect on lessons learned. Victory or loss carries quiet weight, teaching humility, endurance, and compassion. Even in peace, the knight's duty continues. Training, patrols, mentoring squires, maintaining armor, caring for horses. Daily routines are meditative, instilling focus, patience, and steady resilience. Every act is deliberate, each motion mindful, every thought oriented toward vigilance and growth. Picture knights seated under the shade of trees. Swords resting across knees, armor catching the light, conversation quiet, reflective. Stories of campaigns, advice for younger companions, and the recounting of battles past. Wisdom passes gently, like water over stones, shaping the next generation. Breathe softly. Imagine evenings in a peaceful stronghold. Fires burn low, banners hang quietly, horses breathe softly, and knights gather to pray, share meals, or write letters to loved ones far away. Every small action is part of the rhythm of life, a meditation in movement and care. In war, knights exemplify courage, skill, and loyalty. In peace, they embody patience, reflection, and guidance. Both are essential to the life of knighthood. The same hands that wield sword in battle also polish armor, guide squires, and offer counsel. Breathe deeply. Picture a knight walking along quiet walls at night. Stars shimmer above, the wind moves gently across towers and fields, banners flutter softly. The world is calm, yet vigilance persists. Every shadow, every sound is noted, yet the mind rests in the rhythm of duty and observation. The life of a knight is thus a meditation in contrast. Between action and stillness, battle and reflection, vigilance and calm. Each day offers lessons, each night offers reflection, and each moment contributes to the slow shaping of courage, patience, and honor. Even in war, moments of peace exist. A shared meal before battle, a whispered prayer in a chapel, a quiet conversation with a comrade. These moments restore the spirit, steady the mind, and remind the knight of purpose beyond combat. Breathe softly. Let the rhythm of war and peace settle in your mind. Hear the distant clang of metal in training, the soft neighing of horses, the quiet murmur of prayer, the rustle of banners in gentle winds. All is part of the measured life of a knight. And as night falls, fires burn low, tents flap softly, horses rest, and knights close their eyes. Hearts are full of reflection, readiness, and quiet resolve. Whether in battle or peace, the ideals of courage, honor, and patience endure. Breathe slowly. Drift gently with the rhythm of knighthood. The life of a knight is a slow, meditative journey. Every action, every reflection, every moment of vigilance and calm contributes to a legacy of courage, honor, and faith. And so, the story continues. Knights move through war and peace, through duty and reflection, carrying forward the slow, enduring rhythm of knighthood. What if? The clang of armor and the rhythm of lances slowly softened. The old ways of knighthood giving way to new forms, yet leaving traces of courage, honor, and faith. Close your eyes. Breathe slowly. Imagine a castle at dusk. The sun lowers its golden light across stone walls, long shadows stretching across quiet courtyards. The banners flutter softly in the breeze, their colors muted with age, carrying memories of battles, tournaments, and victories past. Knighthood, once defined by strict codes, ceremonial oaths, and martial skill, begins to change. The rise of gunpowder, new strategies, and shifting politics reshapes the battlefield. Armor becomes heavier, then gradually less central, as weapons evolve and wars are fought differently. Breathe softly. Picture a knight walking slowly through an aging hall. His armor shows dents and scratches, trophies of campaigns long past. He pauses by a window, looking out over the countryside, reflecting on what it means to serve, protect, and live with honor in a changing world. Tournaments become less frequent, replaced by training in new forms of warfare. Yet the rituals, the prayers, the oaths, and the bonds of camaraderie endure. The ideals of courage, loyalty, and reflection continue, even as swords and lances give way to firearms and artillery. Imagine the quiet moments in the countryside. Knights, now older, mentor squires not only in combat but in wisdom, patience, and diplomacy. Lessons of humility, endurance, and honor are passed gently, like ripples across water, shaping the next generation even as old structures fade. Breathe slowly. Picture castles once brimming with activity, now quieter. Fires burn low, walls echo with distant memories, and knights walk the halls thoughtfully. Their focus shifts from conquest to protection, from combat to counsel, from the public spectacle to private reflection. Even as feudal structures weaken, knighthood transforms. Some knights serve in new armies, others as advisors. Many preserve traditions of ceremony and skill. The spirit of knighthood, courage, loyalty, devotion, remains, quietly guiding actions and decisions. Breathe deeply. Imagine a small chapel within a fortress. Knights kneel in prayer, reflecting on battles fought, victories won, and the passing of an age. Each whispered prayer, each silent reflection, is a meditation on the enduring values of honor, service, and faith. Life continues, slower now, more contemplative. The clang of swords is replaced by the sound of words, counsel, and study. Yet each action, each choice, carries the weight of history and the memory of tradition. Breathe softly. Picture a young squire listening to an older knight recount tales of valor, of tournaments, of battles long past. The lessons are subtle: patience, humility, strategy, courage, and faith. The essence of knighthood is preserved in these quiet transmissions of knowledge and experience. Even as kingdoms shift and political landscapes transform, the ideals endure. Knights adapt, not abandoning their principles, but shaping them to fit new realities. The essence of duty, reflection, and honor persists, quietly guiding lives and communities. Breathe slowly. Drift through this evolving world. Hear the rustle of banners, the creak of wooden doors, the distant neigh of horses, the faint murmur of prayers. All of it part of a slow, meditative rhythm that connects past, present, and future. As night falls over castle and village, fires burn low, lanterns glow softly, tents flap gently, and knights reflect on the passing of time. Hearts are full of memory, quiet resolve, and enduring ideals. The decline of knighthood is not an end. It is transformation. From armored warriors to advisors, mentors, and keepers of tradition. The rhythm of courage, loyalty, and meditation continues, carried forward in quiet, enduring ways. Breathe deeply. Let the echoes of this transformation settle in your mind. The story of knighthood continues, softly, in reflection, service, and enduring values. And so, the tale moves gently toward its close. Knights adapt, survive, and leave legacies not of mere conquest, but of courage, honor, and faith, whispered through history and memory. What if? All the stories of knights, their journeys across sunlit fields, their quiet prayers in stone chapels, and the gentle rhythm of their lives could drift softly into your mind, becoming a lullaby of courage, reflection, and calm. Close your eyes. Breathe slowly. Feel the day's weight lift gently from your shoulders. Imagine wandering slowly through the quiet streets of a distant castle town. The sun lowers softly over walls and towers, painting stone in warm gold, stretching long, tranquil shadows across courtyards and gardens. Banners ripple gently in the evening breeze, carrying the memory of battles, tournaments, and oaths past. Listen softly. The distant neigh of horses in stalls, the gentle clink of armor resting after a day's duty, the murmured prayers of those who guard and serve. Every sound flows slowly into your awareness, a steady, calming rhythm that guides you toward peace. Breathe deeply. Imagine the knights themselves, walking quietly through corridors and courtyards, reflecting on their day. Each patrolling step, each adjustment of armor, each careful polishing of sword or shield is a meditation in patience, discipline, and honor. The weight of their duties is tempered by reflection, care, and the soft bonds of comradeship. Picture the young squires learning the ways of courage and honor. Gentle guidance from experienced knights, soft encouragement, the quiet passing of lessons from one generation to the next. The tilt of a lance in training, the swing of a practiced sword, the patient repetition of ritual and skill. All forming a gentle, meditative rhythm of growth and reflection. Breathe slowly. Let your mind drift over distant fields where knights once rode in formation, the grass glinting in morning dew, banners floating softly in the breeze. Imagine the quiet after battle. Dust settling on sun-warmed armor, the murmurs of conversation, tending to horses, repairing shields, the reflective silence after exertion. Every moment a lesson, every act a meditation. Evenings bring calm. Fires flicker in low stone hearths, lanterns glow softly in quiet towers, horses breathe gently in stalls, and knights gather to share stories, prayers, or simple meals. Conversations are measured, soft, deliberate. Stories of courage, endurance, and humility pass quietly, echoing across generations. Breathe deeply. Picture yourself walking alongside them. The gentle rhythm of footsteps on stone, the distant call of a night watchman, the soft rustle of banners, the quiet stirring of the wind across castle walls. Every sound, every motion, every shadow contributes to a slow, meditative cadence. Think of the rituals. Evening prayers whispered in chapels, letters written home by candlelight, polishing armor, tending horses, reflecting on lessons of the day. Each act is deliberate, infused with care and mindfulness. The essence of knighthood is not only in battle, but in these quiet moments of reflection and devotion. Breathe softly. Picture the knights kneeling together under starlit skies. Hands folded, swords resting before them, banners gently fluttering in the night breeze. Thoughts of duty, faith, honor, and loyalty mingle with gentle remembrance of those who came before, and hope for those yet to come. Even as the centuries pass, the lessons endure. Courage tempered by patience, action balanced with reflection, loyalty paired with humility. Every story, every moment, every quiet reflection of the knights carries forward into memory, guiding hearts and minds through time. Breathe slowly. Imagine yourself drifting through the quiet of a castle at night. The soft glow of lanterns, the faint creak of wood, the whisper of wind through towers and battlements. Every sight, every sound, every scent blends into a slow, flowing rhythm of calm and reflection. And now, let the story settle gently. The knights have completed their duties for the day, their lessons echo quietly, and the rhythm of their lives drifts into memory. Feel the courage, patience, honor, and faith of their lives flowing softly into your own consciousness, becoming part of your calm, your meditation, your journey toward rest. Breathe deeply. Let the quiet pulse of reflection, courage, and peace fill your mind. Every thought slows, every heartbeat calms, every breath becomes a gentle wave carrying you towards sleep. Picture the world outside, still and calm. The distant hills, the soft glimmer of stars, the gentle murmur of streams and forests. Nights rest, horses breathe softly, fires burn low, and the quiet night carries all into gentle slumber. Breathe slowly. Drift with the rhythm of the night's lives. Feel the slow, steady cadence of duty, reflection, and meditation enveloping you. The story, though ended, lingers gently in your mind, a lullaby of courage, honor, and enduring calm. And so, sleep now. Softly, peacefully. Let the distant banners, quiet castles, starry skies, and gentle lessons of knighthood guide you into dreams of patience, reflection, and quiet strength.